All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we're going through Proverbs 6, verses 27 through 29. Let's get it. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Or can one walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? So is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. So, I titled this one, You Can't Escape Nature's Laws, because the interpretation I got here is that there are common sense consequences to actions, and you're not going to skirt them forever. What do I mean by that? You're not going to carry fire next to your chest and not be burned, or not have your clothes be burned. You're not going to walk on hot coals and your feet not be scorched. And what's funny about this is I think people at Tony Robbins events, like his high level masterminds, will actually walk on hot coals. And I don't know if their feet get burned or not, but it's like a mindset thing for them and they do it. So that's interesting. But um, you know, you're not gonna touch a hot stove and your hand not get burned. You're not gonna um, sit on a hot stove and your bum not get burned. Like you're not gonna put clothes in a campfire and pull out a whole shirt. Like there are common sense consequences to some actions. You're not going to jump off the Empire State Building without a parachute or anything, free fall, hit the ground, and live. Like that's just not going to happen. It's not how life works, right? So, given that, what's the entrepreneurial application of this? Well, it's that there are common sense consequences to actions. And simply put out, actions have consequences, and you need to look at your daily habits and play out the consequences of those actions 5 years into the future, 10 years into the future, 20 years into the future. It's one of the things that keeps me going on this podcast. I'm like, if I post the podcast for 10 years, there is no way that I'm going to not end up where I want to be, being able to influence people, impact people, help them live out their dream life and become the people that they need to become. And because I have this podcast, I'm always thinking about ways to get people's eyeballs to it, helping people improve more, et cetera, et cetera. And people are seeing me become a more consistent, disciplined person, right? And they get to hear my journey of like from the time I was 22, 23 until I was like 50, 60. And I'm like, doing all these things. And I'm this big entrepreneur guy with kids and a lovely wife, and I'm building a family, and they'll get to just hear my story, right, for years of it and pick out the highlights. I just think that's really cool. So actions have consequences. Play out the consequences of those daily habits and look at the common sense consequences as well. For example, if you need more money in your life and your daily habit is to not sell anything, you're not going to get more money. You just don't have an opportunity. You're not even pursuing an opportunity to get more money. If you want to be healthier and you never go to the gym or you never work out or you never eat right, you're not going to get healthier. You're probably going to get more unhealthy. So just take a look at those daily habits and play them out over the years. And that's the entrepreneurial application of this. What are your KPIs, your key performance indicators? And why did you pick those key performance indicators? When you think about the consequence that you want, think about the action that's going to get that consequence. And then how do you need to do that action to get that consequence? And so if you want to make sales, you need to do cold calls. If you want more leads, you need to do more marketing. If you're doing more marketing and you aren't getting leads, you need to do better marketing, or you need to tweak your product, or you need to so on and so forth, right? It's real simple to think about, but it's intimidating for people to actually execute. And that's where stuff comes into play of like, um, you know, it's easy, or it's simple to process, not easy to execute. Like even looking at the verses, you say, so is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. Well, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that you're not just going to go commit adultery and not feel any shame, not have any tension in the relationship with the spouse of that person, or your own spouse. And so a lot of people are doing that. And then they're like, ooh, I know this could end up bad, because it's common sense that when you betray people, they're going to be pissed off. Yet people still do it. And so the execution is not easy, but playing the consequences out is a very simple thing to do. So where has this shown up in my life? I would say running up against natural limits and then having to build natural character traits for success. And so oftentimes I would be caught up in shiny object syndrome, because one of the fallacies that you'll get when you're trying to become successful is that, oh, I can do 6 things at once, 7 things at once, 8 things at once, and they're all going to be successful. And when you split your focus like that, you tend to not be successful, right? And so you need to get one thing down, focus on that so you get it down, and then you can start adding things once it's in your system and it's in your routine and it's not difficult for you to do. And so I've just been running up against natural limits, and I still am, honestly. I still probably try to do too much and am not focused enough and haven't learned that lesson to the extent I need to. But I'm building that character trait of focus, right? Also, consistency, posting the podcast daily, patience, being able to control my emotion when FOMO hits, when it comes to taking a trade or doing a deal or seizing an opportunity, letting go of the need for money now. And so oftentimes I've been asking myself the question, am I doing this just to get money now? If I am, is that something I want to do? Because if I'm not going to be doing it in 10 years, why do it now? And then changing my thoughts. When it comes to temptation around lust, around greed, around even gluttony, it's like changing my thoughts around food, around women, around money. All of these things will kind of help me follow the natural laws in these areas. It's just like when you think of as a man thinketh, he's like a person who has committed adultery, a person who is poor, a person who is unhealthy, at one point had unhealthy thoughts, had thoughts about being poor, or had thoughts about committing adultery. If you never had those thoughts, you wouldn't have even been able to conceive the action. And so at some point you were thinking about it. So if you change your thoughts, again, my little cycle of character traits and behaviors and people, your thoughts influence your feelings, which influence your actions, which change your results, which reinforce your beliefs, which inform your thoughts. So change your beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, or results, and you'll start to change everything in the cycle, because it's all cyclical, right? So where do I want this to show up in my life? I told you guys that I run up against natural limits. I'm conquering those natural limits as we speak and falling in line with the natural limits, building the character traits, doing the things I need to do to get success and then maintain success, and also have a heart for people and make sure I don't, screw it up because I'm getting selfish when I'm 35 and stacked. And so, where do I want this to show up in my life? I really want to understand natural laws better. And so, what I just talked about, guys, is the fact that when you have a belief, it influences your thoughts, which will get your feelings, actions, and results, which will reinforce your thoughts, right? All right, which will reinforce your beliefs. Well, if I have certain beliefs about certain natural laws, it'll explain my behavior and my results and my feelings and my thoughts. And so I really want to understand natural laws to the extent that it affects me on a heart level, on a belief level, on a faith level. And so ultimately, I want to be working with God in all that I do. And when you work with God instead of against God, things tend to work out better. Like they just happen naturally. You're excited when it's doing it. It flows easier. And not even that it flows easier, but consistency is easier. Persistence is easier because you have God on your side. And if God is for you, who then can be against you? So the Bible typically tells you kind of how to go about life and how to do stuff. But again, easy to read, not simple to think about executing, and very difficult to actually execute because you are fighting yourself often, your bad habits, your bad thought processes, your bad beliefs. And I put bad before all that, but just your current. Like it's not necessarily bad or good. It depends on what you want in life. And if you're getting what you want in life, then you have stuff that is working out for you. But if you're not getting what you want and you're not who you want to become, it's time to look at that. And so again, actions have consequences, and the act of thinking something, the act of feeling something, the act of acting something out, and the act of getting a certain result, all of these have consequences. And if you play it out over years, it'll be pretty easy to see where it's taking you. So how can you guys apply this to your life? I would say ask yourself when you are expecting something for nothing, because the consequence of expecting something for nothing is becoming a person who manipulates, who deceives, and who ends up getting nothing. Because when you give nothing, you get nothing. And so if you're expecting something for nothing, that means you're always giving nothing, which means you're always going to get nothing. But when you start expecting something for something, or in fact, you start giving something for nothing, that's when you get to the best part of it. because you know that's not how the law works. When you give something, you're going to get something. And so when you start expecting to give something and get nothing, you are immensely grateful for everything that you get because you were expecting nothing, but you're definitely going to get something because you chose to give everything. Play that back if that didn't make sense. But yeah, if you're expecting something for nothing in your life, that means you're going to be giving nothing, which means you're going to get nothing. And if you're in a spot where you have nothing, maybe it's because in some really critical areas of your life, you're expecting to get something for nothing. So that's what we got for you guys today on the show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.